few are still filing in, but we need to push on. We probably aren't going to have time to get through this entire list. So we're just going to get started with Richard. He'll get 4 minutes. When the timer goes off, we then move on to David. And when the end of our time comes at 5:45, we'll have got through as many as we can get through. Are we ready? Richard, come on up. I'll try and find my mouse while he's doing this. Go.
Okay, I've got a question. Should we be doing Agile slower sometimes? Sometimes it's important here. I think we're all agreed that software development is a complex adaptive system, and complex systems are very sensitive to context. So the context I'm talking about is where software is organizations where software is a means to an end rather than being an end in itself. So in my context, I work in the not-for-profit sector on projects where IT is supporting organizational change. These projects have a number of characteristics. The new system is going to change the way people work and how they interact with the system. The staff don't have much time to get involved. They've got a day job. Systems are cross-departmental and cross-organizational. There's a lot of organizational politics tension. Staff are typically not keen on change. The system is informal, variable, poorly understood. What actually happens is different to what people think actually happens. And very often it's the staff at the front end who are actually making it work. It meets all the criteria that Diane talked about this morning, this VUCA, volatile, complex, uncertain, ambiguous. Key principle for me is if you're changing the way people are working, you need to actively and effectively involve them in the change process. So the conclusion I've come to is if you've got limited resources, sometimes sometimes not writing software is a good idea. From my experience, two things have emerged. I mean, doing some upfront work is very valuable. I've got some stuff here which I'm going to skip over, looking at the time. And then the second thing, which I think is more important, is allowing some time for effective user testing and trialing is important. In my view, the show and tell thing doesn't work, particularly if you're working with non-IT literate users. Users actually need to get their hands on the software and actually use it to do some realistic work in order to actually give you feedback as to whether you're going in the right direction or not. And the projects, again, I've worked on, what we've ended up doing is actually taking breathers where we don't do any development work and we spend time with the users actually looking at what's working and what's not working. It's easier on my projects because typically we're working with development partners and we can schedule that work in with them. The bottom line is that I think for some, and I've picked up a lot of stuff sort of through reading and so on about it, the constraint often on these projects is not the development team, but the business. And really you need to be, to get good systems, you actually need to be going at the speed the business is able to go at with the resources that it's got available. I'm not the only person thinking this. Jeff Patton is talking about, and other people are talking about, dual track parallel development. Gabrielle Benefield talks about, she talks about building the wrong thing faster because you're not actually spending time thinking, talking to users. She talks about Frankenbuild. She's put together something called the Mobius loop. And then coming on to to Dave Snowden, who various people have talked about today. In complex systems, he says you need to probe, sense, and respond. And in my view, I think we need to be spending more time on the sense bit of that. Is what we have done the right thing? Are we going in the right direction here? And that really is my final point, that sometimes stopping and thinking and being reflective means you end up building something better. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm David Jenkins. I'm responsible for products at Nagra in the UK. Bear with me just while I get this going. So today, thank you very much indeed. So today I wanted to talk to you about TV, the dilemma of choice and Agile. And this is me pondering my dilemma of choice about what I wanted to speak about today. What I wanted to come back to was the fundamental. Why do we do Agile? Why are we here? I wanted to come at it from my perspective. Why do I do Agile, and how is it valuable to me? This is TV. Everybody knows what TV is. But nowadays, TV is also about this little fella here consuming lots of content on his iPad. This is a satellite. It costs $300 million. There's over 1 million components in it. It costs an awful lot of money to launch. It is the culmination of 70 years worth of rocket research, of computing, of communications. It carries hundreds of channels, thousands of simultaneous conversations going on through this satellite at any point in time. It is an incredible piece of technology. It is possibly the pinnacle of human endeavor. And what do we do with it? We use it to broadcast Love Island. That's it. And this is some kind of a metaphor for my industry. What we need to do is take something incredibly complex and make it as simple as humanly possible for people to use. But I've got a bit of a challenge, and the challenge is as follows. I've got these little guys watching TV. I've got these guys watching TV. I've got this guy kind of watching TV, not really engaged in what he's doing. And I've got this lady leaning forward a little bit more to actively try and find what she wants to watch at any point in time. And so you can see I've got a little bit of a diversity in my typical user and the way in which they engage with the system. I've got a compounded difficulty by the fact that most of them are using this piece of shit to interact with the device at any point in time. And that in of itself creates an enormous UX challenge for how we deal with content navigation through these platforms. Additionally, I've got this little guy again, who's still using his bloody iPad to navigate through the content and try and consume whatever he wants to watch, whenever he wants to watch. So it was so simple back in the day. You had good old BBC One, and if you were lucky, you could also pick up HTV West. For me, this meant I was on the wrong aerial. I live in Wales, so it should be ITV Wales. But nowadays, as you know, there's thousands of TV channels out there, and that's just the broadcast bit. So additional to all of the broadcast services that you now have an explosion in, you also have all of this stuff, which is all of the back catalogue. And that is really only the tip of the iceberg. So that gives me a massive dilemma. It's actually the dilemma of choice that I referred to earlier. How on earth do you begin to simplify that in a way that allows you to engage with the widest possible audience? You can see we've got some challenges here. So what I like to call it is decomplexification. Atering. That's what we do. Decomplification-atering. I grabbed this quote off of a quote generation site. I have no idea who this guy is, whether he's famous, whether he's written anything noteworthy. He's probably a serial killer for all I know. But it's quite a nice quote because it fits the context of where I'm trying to get to. What I like about Agile and why we do Agile, and for me as a product manager, it allows me to be a little bit wrong or very wrong all of the time. But that doesn't really matter. And that's the whole key. That's the whole key to developing and delivering in an Agile model. So I've got some answers, and some are more right than others, and some are probably very wrong. But here's a few of them. So for example, I want to create a TV interface which has the idea of personas. So at any point in time, I can go and think, I want to see what Gourmet Girl is going to recommend me. Gourmet Girl is just an abstract idea. It's an abstract idea of a persona that there may be a whole series of content sitting behind. I may want to watch that stuff. I may not. I may instead be in a bit more of a spy mode. I may be in a funny mood. I may decide to have a lift, try and lift my mood. But this is all based on the idea of commitment bias. As a product manager, my dilemma is prioritization. Continuous delivery allows me to get it to my customers very quickly and iterate very quickly. Thank you very much.
Julian's up. There's a phone here, by the way, which is now going beep beep. Shall I start here? Sorry.
It's a pick, so I pushed the button.
Okay. I was expecting Julian Holmes, but. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, go for it, Steve.
All right.
Start now.
Thank you very much. Right, making yourself agile ready without considering the customer is like learning a new dance without considering your dance partner. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of a project manager that I was working with in Bristol, working for a small company, delivering something into a government department. The government department was very happy to run this project as an agile project. They said this is exactly what we need. Unfortunately, they weren't necessarily experienced in agile. This is the first thing they'd done as a whole department. And so although they showed willing, there was some teething pain, shall we say, involved in it. So I was called in. I'm not really an agile practitioner. I'm more of an agile observer. I work at university. So I was brought in as kind of independent observer to figure out what was going on. One of the things I did was to go to the client and figure out what did agile look like from their point of view, not from the software development's point of view. What does it look like from the client's point of view? And so what I've got here is a couple of post-it notes that I'd like to read out to you. This was collected during a focus group, and I'm not claiming that these are the truth. I'm not claiming that these are reasonable opinions to hold, but these are genuine things that were mentioned by the client. And I think it's worth us sort of bearing these in mind as we think about how we deal with the client. Okay, so the first thing is Agile seems to rely on co-location. In other words, it's really difficult to make Agile work if clients in London and teams in Bristol. You may agree or disagree. This was an interesting one. We had someone who was a product owner, if you like, and she was saying, you're expecting me to be omniscient. In other words, you come to me with a product backlog and you expect me to make an instant decision. What's the highest business priority? I don't know because I'm only one person and I need to engage with a whole range of stakeholders around the client's business before I can make that judgment. So don't expect too much of me. This is a green one. This is good, right? So someone thought Agile is great because requirements are expected to change. Fine. And that means we don't need any kind of process to deal with them. That turned out to be a little bit too optimistic. There are all sorts of problems in dealing with changes during the process. And for example, one person said, it's difficult to monitor or track whether the high-level requirements can even be delivered during the time scale, leading to a request for clear deliverables, milestones, or wait for it, Gantt charts for senior management. You may or may not think this is a good idea, but it is something that they wanted. Last couple of comments. Trust. This is a green one. This is good. Trust motivates the team. It gets them emotionally involved. Fantastic. That's what we want. On the other hand, some of them hadn't gone quite as far along the trust journey. Listen to this one. It's hard to be confident I'm getting value for money. The client cannot know whether the number of developer days, which is how he thought story points were, estimates are reasonable. I have to pay for additional time if the contractor underestimates or makes mistakes. You can hear the levels of frustration going. So you can either agree or disagree that that's reasonable, but it is something that we need to deal with. I'm going to finish off just by saying 3 things that we did that helped. Didn't solve the problem, but they helped. First thing is, in any project, high-level sponsor engagement, high-level senior management support is important. And also think about that poor product manager, getting the commitment in the wider organization to help her make those priority decisions. Yes, we need agile contracts. There was a great presentation on that earlier this afternoon. But we also need to engage with the client processes and QA of dealing with change management. Remember, the rest of the organization is not yet agile ready. And they have a QA department. How does our project interact with that? And finally, well, there's lots of other ideas. And if you're interested, come and talk to me, or even better, talk to Paul Massey, who gave an excellent presentation. He's got lots of ideas on that as well. And finally, if any of you is interested or working in the financial services industry, completely unrelated, please come and talk to me. I may have some work for you. Thank you.
Are you ready, Julian? Yep. Go.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about a concept. Agile methods are dangerous. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I mean, there's lots of good stuff in them, but so many times when I'm working in organizations and they're trying to change, and Agile's probably going to be part of it, I do find that there are challenges with this. Who here has come across a scenario where they've been talking to somebody and we're thinking about how something's been done, and they say, well, the method says we're not allowed to do it like that. Or no, the method says we have to do it exactly this way. That's not helpful. Why do you think that's happening? Well, obviously, perhaps the method wasn't thinking about that context. Maybe they hadn't been looking at other options, other choices around those practices available to them. Maybe they were kind of forgetting the values and principles as opposed to thinking that the practice is the most important thing. Okay, so what about all those methods that are written down? Something that I keep hearing, and I think it's a good thing in Agile context, is things should be a placeholder for a conversation. But we all like to rely upon the most written down methods that we now feel we have to follow, just as described. So we do need to make sure that our methods become a placeholder for a conversation as well. They shouldn't be seen as prescriptive things that you need to do, that you need to follow exactly. So let's stick to our own good champagne, drink our own champagne, or eat our own dog food here. Let's make them a placeholder of conversation. Let's use methods appropriately. So also then, if we've got all these methods out there, who here has seen them all become a silver bullet? The panacea that's going to fix an organization. How many times have I seen, I heard it earlier, Agile does not equal Scrum. But somebody wants to become Agile and they see maybe it's Scrum or maybe it's Safe, whatever the flavor of the month is right now. And they think, okay, we just throw them on a whole bunch of training courses, well, typically just the managers and the leaders, and they'll make everything else work, obviously. And then we guess then everybody hears this edict that basically says, right, we're now Agile, just do it. Yeah, okay, so that's not particularly worked too well for me in my environments. And let's think about textual description. So I said placeholder of conversation. There have been a history of failures in process definitions written down. I mean, Winston Royce, 1970, definition of what he didn't call waterfall, had a fantastic definition of what the future should look like in software development. But unfortunately, page 1 was kind of waterfall, and nobody ever read the rest of it. That's a good example. What about RUP? That dreaded rational unified process. I mean, RUP done right was great, but unfortunately, most of the time it was very, very wrong. 10,000 pages worth of content written down. The essence was fine. But how it was written down meant it was applied very wrongly. Very rhino, sometimes I call that. Very dangerous beast, RUP in name only. XP, another example. Thou shalt pair at all times, no matter what the task is at hand. Okay, maybe a little bit of pragmatism in here, a bit of context. I do like the principle massively, pairing everything I do, but got to think about it. And Scrum, we just had a fantastic PO debate upstairs. Product owners, oh God, don't get started. I mean, Lynn, crikey, you can fill an hour with that one, eh? But yeah, it's a defined role. Must happen, must be as prescribed, must be direct to a customer. Not always. Context counts. So what's my answer? I've got lots of challenges. We've got to get people thinking. It's not about doing Agile stuff. It's about being Agile. It's about understanding the principles and the values behind all that. And if you don't understand it, you've not got a chance. How do we do that? Well, you've got to pick from choices. And how do you pick best? Continuous improvement. And to go back to the keynote today, if you enable people to learn, they'll make the right choices. Thank you.
No, Dave, don't take too long. Go.
Okay, hello. Is this working? Okay. I'm Marianne. I'm a Scrum Master, and I do very dangerous things with my teams. And I want to tell you about one of them. What we have right now is a couple of teams, and each of them has their own project for government or education. And most of the people working in the teams don't really know what the other teams are up about, what they are doing. We try to improve the situations by doing some knowledge shares, letting them give presentations to each other, just put everyone in a room, let them talk about it, and let's see what happens. But that didn't really solve anything. They did understand better the functionality that the others were building, but still it wasn't easier for us to move people around from teams to teams or for teams to help each other when they were in need. So together with some of my colleagues, I came up with the concept of pull request wars. It's some kind of internal hackathon, which is hosted by one of the teams, a different team every time. It lasts one day, and the hosting team gives an introduction into the project, the structure, the code base, they show it all, and then the participants each get a computer from one of the developers from the hosting project. They have a development environment set up for them right away. They get their own pull request and an assignment. And then 6 hours of working on a completely strange project to them, just working this code, trying to make improvements according to the assignment, and they are coached by the hosting team. So everyone is actually pair programming. But the coaches have to keep their hands on their back, of course. They cannot touch the keyboard themselves. It's just the participants doing this. After these 6 hours, everyone, all the participants, present their pull request, and they are judged. And the winning pull request is then merged in a festive way. It's a lot of fun. The cool thing about this is that the PR wars are different every time, because projects have different needs, and the nature of some projects makes it easier to have an assignment in the sense of how would you make this page more user-friendly, while another project is more about, okay, we need to refactor this, we need to add a better structure. So the assignment is very different every time, and also the participants can be very different every time. But the setting and the rules of the game are clear to everyone, so it's also now something that our customers are asking about. Hey, when are you going to do a PR war again for us? Because your internal code reviews are so valuable, or we really like the features that were built last time. So this quite dangerous thing is now really starting to be incorporated in our organization and helping us break down the silos that our teams had become. And it's really a lot of fun.
18 seconds to spare. That's the way to go. Do it, Colm. Do you want the screen? Do you need the adapter?
Yes,
No, just in case you want to go.
Hello, my name is Colin Morgan, and I'm here to kind of talk you through how I learned something. Kind of inspired by what I saw this morning from Diana with a keynote, and also through Ralph Jeffrey this afternoon. I learned something based on how I failed to learn something in the past. I have previously tried to learn Ruby. I'm a front-end developer. Didn't work. I learned Git instead. I tried to learn Angular 2. It just wasn't as successful as I'd hoped. I thought I'd try and learn React, and that's what's led me, there we go. So I tried to learn React. I gave myself a project. I'm interested in games. I'm interested in JavaScript. So I tried to build a game, simple card matching tool. I wanted to learn this, as I said, failed previously. My new approach here was to read documentation before actually jumping straight into code. I took notes like I would have done in uni, and I then jumped straight in and managed to develop something in, so this is going to be in about 15 hours. These are my notes that I took, so reading through documentation, taking what I would need to take from it, and I built a card matching game. 15 hours where maybe the first third were dependent on building the CSS for that little flip animation, and that was it. That's the UX bit that I strive for in my regular job. So if I hit 4 and try and hit 4 again, as you can see, it's returned a match, and it's counted my turns, it counts the number of cards I select, and you've got that little animation at the end, not a match, turn away, take another turn. So I tracked my time, I planned my next steps, used things like GitHub to plan my milestones and my roadmap. And since I'm here now scoping interest, hence why I'm here, to see if anyone's interested, have a chat with me. My name is Colin Morgan, and you can find me on Twitter. Oh, that's really bad. Carmat71 on Twitter. Have a chat with me, looking for ideas on how I can progress it. And what did I learn? I learned basic React. What I would hope to learn, thinking more in React, as well as the model of state, specific to these newer JavaScript frameworks. What's stopping me? Time, family, work, life, socializing. Thank you very much.
Sumit.
Hi, Sumit here.
Go.
Sumit here. I'm going to talk about what do we mean about or what is Agile, etc. So I'm basically by profession somewhere between engineer and architect. That makes my life really interesting. So I'm learning, so go easy on me, please. So when my boss or the head of the organization, they say that we are agile, and every member of the staff at different levels, they think that what is agile? How am I going to be agile? So this is my attempt when, as an architect hat, I was told that, okay, let's migrate all our monolithic systems to the cloud, etc., and all that, and we need to be agile, etc. So this is my attempt from something I learned from a psychology class in my school. So basically I wanted to map. Hope you will soon get some hints about it. So first, to give you a perspective of how we can see this agility at various layers. So let's say any application or anything, we need something like a hosting infrastructure. So do we need agility in this kind of layer? Is this like basic needs for something we want to host? Of course, we need safety, like social safety or something like security in application around that. So moving above, we need belongingness, family, and around that, virtualization, containers, or something. I'm giving away some more hints. About ego of a person or an individual. So this is just like a crude attempt saying, okay, let's have some capabilities around it, applications maybe. And finally, the esteem, where our bosses love to have bonuses around business objectives and goals, etc. So all you can see, this is a giveaway of Maslow's triangle. So parting shots on thing that how do we see this perspective? Let's take another example of a hammer and a nail. I'm not talking about give anybody a hammer, every solution is a nail. No, not like that. I've given another perspective to hammer-nail problem. So if you have a hammer and you have to hit a nail on some things, and if you focus too much on the hammer, you know where you're going to hit. So you focus on your objectives like a nail, and then you eventually learn to achieve. Okay, thank you. That's me.
I like this. Our speakers are getting faster.
So you can get plugged in, just okay. Thank you.
Okay. Go.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Vicky, this is Chrissy. We work for Holiday Extras and we need your help, please, guys. We are remote working now, and this is our story so far. So we work for holidayextras.com. We've been in the company, well, we haven't, but the company's been running for 34 years, and we've been in Agile for the last 4 years. We fell into it, actually. We started working with an external company called Thoughtworks, and they actually was working Scrum and doing sprints every 2 weeks, so we had to naturally fall into their sprint work. And once that project was over, we actually quite enjoyed and saw the value of working that way. So we looked into it, researched a bit more, and now we have a team of over 100 web developers, and we've currently split into 13 pods. We call them pod teams. And each pod has a product owner, leader, whatever you like to call them, since our debate, agile coach, and then the development team, including a tester. We're based in Kent, so it's actually a bit of a struggle to recruit engineers, because obviously we're in tough competition with London being so close. So last year we branched out into Sofia in Bulgaria, and we now have 13 Bulgarians working for us, based in Sofia. So that's where the remote working comes in. So we've got quite a few challenges. They're not on their own pod. They're actually integrated into our UK pods, so they don't actually work together. However,
so if we step back a little bit, oh my God, remote workers, So we had a complete change curve. And at Holiday Extras, we like to say, suck it up, princess. So we did. So because we had to start working with remote workers, what do we do? So as Agile coaches, we had to rethink our structure of facilitating meetings. So we had to rethink our retrospectives, our sprint plannings, our stand-ups, because these team members were not in the room. So we started to bring in cameras into our meeting rooms. We started to use SingStar mics, like this, so the guys could hear us before we got speaker equipment in. It wasn't just a change for us, though, as Agile coaches. The teams had to change as well and adapt. So the teams had to think about how do they pair program, how do they share that knowledge. So they started using Screen Hero, Slack, and Google Hangouts as well. But being Agile, we know that there's always room for improvement. So what we'd like to do is hear from you guys. If any of you guys are remote, devs, anything like that, we'd like to know what works for you. Also, if you work with remote teams, what are your learnings? What are you finding out? What could we use in our teams to help and make them awesome? We are at the party tonight. Mine's a JD and Coke. Vicky will pretty much drink anything. So please come and see us, have a chat. We'd love to learn from you guys. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I think we've got time for Gwen, but I think Jason and James, you're going to cut off because, well, James and Dan are going to jump the queue. Right, do you want to lead?
Yeah, please. Cheers.
This is our final lightning talk.
Sorry. Right. Hi there. I'm Gwen Diagram. I'm talking about me and Mr. T. So, I've got a developer. His name is Mr. T. He was originally called Adam, but at a startup we worked at, half the team got fired and we made him the manager, so we called him Mr. T. He's my developer and I take him everywhere with me. We've been to London, Paris, Cologne, Luxembourg, Ghent, and LA, and every single time we've built the coolest shit in next to no time. So there aren't actually that many like him. He's a big clumsy lump that loves Scooby-Doo, snores, gets cramps in the middle of the night, and shakes the bunk beds that we always end up sharing. He loves whiskey, he loves scars, and he loves his girlfriend Rose. We know each other inside out. We've worked God knows how many hours together in the shortest amount of time, and we bloody love each other. So we've worked on a few projects together. We've released a mobile app in 3 days. We've built the most ridiculous websites in a week, and each time with continuous deployment, and most of the time monitoring. It might not be perfect, but we get shit out there and we get it out there fast. People use our stuff. It's never been huge, but it's used and that's cool. The secret? Fuck it, ship it. Get your shit out there. Time doesn't wait for no one and neither does your competitors. Get early feedback fast. Use your users for testing and be able to make changes quickly. My main job is being a tester, but in a team like this, testing is not the most important thing. Obviously, simple checks to see if it works, but I'm not going to start building a massive automation framework around it. We've got users and we can use them. So, me and Mr. T are a small team. We're agile and we are fast. We can react to changes quickly. And since we always set up continuous deployment, we can get our software out there quickly. We've carved our niches out. He devs and does everything. I'm the odd body and I do damn near everything else. I'm the scrum master telling the product owner he can't have the moon by 3 p.m. on a Friday, but we can do it for 5 p.m. I've actually had that argument, and it got quite shouty. I don't think I'll ever have to shout at someone again, telling them that they can't have the fucking moon by 3 p.m. I protect him from the product people so he can code. He'll set up the continuous deployment, I'll set up the monitoring, and sometimes it gets blurred and I'll do a bit of dev. And he'll do a bit of setting up the monitoring. It doesn't matter, we can communicate and get it sorted. So, as much as our relationship feels special and works, it's not. Me and Mr. T are one of many, many thousands of small teams building software fast and being able to deploy quickly. The product that the big businesses are trying to build with a 1-year roadmap, well, a small team, we can build that in weeks. Businesses taking days to deploy software is laughable now, and if they can't keep up, they will die off. In the era of the internet, The consumers keep demanding that everything moves faster. And it's not just software that's changing either, it's communities. When I first started going to IT events when I was 12, it was all about handing out business cards, and it was organised by huge companies. We're changing how all of this works. We're spinning up DIY tech communities. Just look over the UK, and you'll find meetup groups run by volunteers, and we're reaching people that could not be reached before. We're building software to share. People are building libraries to help each other to get that software out there faster. We're speaking to people from different companies and sharing knowledge and techniques. We're becoming organic. So, we can shape this. The time is ours. And if you don't want to work in a big company anymore, you don't fucking have to. You can get a group of your friends and deliver software, create communities, and create open source software. If you have an idea about something, speak to people about it. If you're passionate, you can make it happen without constrictions of someone telling you how to do it. Go to hackathons, meet people, find people that make you tick. I originally came from the punk scene where it was all about DIY. And we need to bring that to the tech scene. The tech scene is punk, the tech scene is DIY, and it is fucking ours.
How do you follow that? Dan. Again, sorry, James, sorry, Jason, we haven't got time for you. Thanks to all our lightning speakers. Great job.